went to law school, dude. They don't teach you how to run a business, man. So I've got two offices. I've got a California office for the law firm, and I've got an Idaho office. And my business model for the two offices are very, very, very different. California, it's a lower case count, but higher value cases. Whereas in Idaho, I'm taking more volume. The way I get those cases are even very different, right? The networking strategies as well as the marketing strategies, they're very different. It's actually really interesting. The fact that I've moved to this new state has really pushed me. It has pushed my comfort zone big time. And as you know, in Rise Up Kings, man, that's one thing that they really teach and drill into us, right? Is pushing us outside our comfort zone. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm sitting here with my friend Eric Meyer, who I know through a business and a ministry called Rise Up Kings. So I know Eric really well. In fact, at the refinery event, Eric, I don't know if you remember this, you lent me a pair of athletic pants.
Yeah.
Because I did not have appropriate pants and I was going to get everybody else in trouble. So I remember you lent me and they fit well, even though I think I'm a little bit wider than you are. But Eric has become a good friend of mine. He's a personal injury attorney, but he's got a lot of things going on. He and his wife run a school. And yeah, he is a big hitter in every sense of the word, especially in his faith and his marriage and family life. So Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
No, I appreciate it, Andrew. Man, this is awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And I know when you asked me to be on this, I got excited. So no, thankful for it. Thankful for the opportunity. And I got to call you out a little bit because you clearly didn't read those emails before the refinery event. Didn't have enough clothes the right color. And I swooped in and I was the hero for you. So we didn't have to do as many push-ups.
That is literally the story of my life. I had no idea what I was getting into when I do that jump first and think later type of thing. But let's start with it. We already started talking about it, and I appreciate it because before we hopped on this call, we were talking about how you moved from California to Idaho. You restarted your practice in a way, but tell us, a little bit about who you are and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, about 3.5 years ago, my wife and I tell people I never actually chose to move to Idaho. God chose, and I just kind of followed the calling. But yeah, 3.5 years ago, I consider myself a political and religious refugee from California for various reasons. Had to get out of there. Didn't want my kids raised there. But yeah, I'm originally a NorCal boy. I tell people I wear the cowboy hat not because I started watching Yellowstone, but because I actually grew up farming and ranching. But first and foremost, man, I'm a man of God. I'm a family man. Second, and then third, I consider myself, I'm an attorney, but I'm an entrepreneur as well. So my wife's an attorney as well. We own and run a law firm together. And then, as you mentioned, we also own a Christian entrepreneurial academy in Idaho.
Hold on. Let me take a step back there. I didn't realize that. It's an entrepreneurial academy?
Well, yeah, it's not. So look, when it comes to the school, dude, I believe the education system's broken. 100% broken, dude. It was implemented a long time ago to put factory workers in line. And there's we could do a whole freaking podcast on that. But so it's a make a long story short, we're not educators. Well, we weren't educators. My wife, when we moved to Idaho, before we moved, my kids were in a kind of an entrepreneurial academy in California. When we moved to Idaho, we're looking for something similar and we couldn't find it. And we wanted a good Christian education for our children as well. So we moved to Idaho in October. I was studying for the bar exam because, anyone in their right mind would move to a state as a licensed professional, not be licensed there. That was a smart move on my part. But I'm studying for the bar exam. I'm commuting back and forth to California to run my practice in California. My wife comes to my office and she's like, "Hey, babe, I feel like God's placed it on my heart to start a school." And my response was, "No, he ain't." So make a long story short, God opened up door after door. The way that the Lord moved to get that school open is so humbling.
Mm.
Yeah. So our school, it's an entrepreneurial academy. For one, each student is on their own individual learning plan. Um, Andrew, you and I, you might be an audio learner. I might be a visual learner. You might do best with, someone at the chalkboard. I might do better at working through a workbook, whatever. Right. So the school's set up. We might be learning the same stuff, but we're going to be learning it differently with individual learning plans first and foremost. But yes, we are an entrepreneurial academy. So in other words, every single student has to start their own business, even in kindergarten, and they have to keep a P&L. Now, in kindergarten, they're not getting down to the pennies, but if little Sally wants to make some cookies, she needs to know, the concepts of, maybe approximately, $4 to make the cookies. You can't sell them for $2, right? Those simple concepts. As the kids get older, then they're starting to actually keep their P&Ls, balance sheets, doing deep dives into, okay, why didn't you sell? Right. Well, because so and so else had a similar business, or, there wasn't a need that was being fixed, whatever. And so, yeah, so dude, we've got some success stories already in the business. We've got kids in elementary school, dude, making bank.
I love that. I love that. Okay, I lost my train of thought, but it's coming back to me now. Okay, all right. So the concept is big hitters, right? So talk from the scope of maybe the amount of work you've done or the types of cases you've tried. I don't know what, a big hitter to me is someone thinking outside the box, doing something innovative on a cool run rate. They're doing a lot of production. You just started from scratch, but talk about that in any way that it kind of hits you.
Yeah. What's interesting is I'm in this weird position where I had the opportunity to rebrand myself and rebrand my business and do things differently. Look, I went to law school, dude. They don't teach you how to run a business, man. And so I've been going through the school of hard knocks. And I'll tell you, I'm doing things a lot differently now that I'll tell you this. So I've got two offices. I've got a California office for the law firm, and I've got an Idaho office. And my business model for the two offices are very, very, very different. For California, it's a lower case count, but higher value cases. Whereas in Idaho, I'm taking more volume. And the way I get about those cases, the way I get those cases are even very different, right? The network,
Mhm.
the networking strategies as well as the marketing strategies, very different. It's actually really interesting. And so, the fact that I've moved to this new state has really pushed me. It has pushed my comfort zone big time. And as you know, in Rise Up Kings, man, that's one thing that they really teach and drill into us, right? Is pushing us outside our comfort zone. Um, you know, we had to, dude, we had to do stuff that if I knew what we were doing, there's no way in hell I would have gone. And so, but yeah, it's really forced me out of my comfort zone. Maybe like, for instance, dude, I've always said I'd never put my face on a billboard. I used to make fun of those lawyers. Now I've got billboards out there,
We have Frank Azar here in Denver. He's on literally every freaking billboard in town.
right?
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. But it works for him. And again, I personally I wrestle with that type of advertising because I don't look at billboards. But there's something about his omnipresence that I'm like, okay, he's the guy to call for you're in a truck accident or whatever. So
See,
it makes sense
it's
to me.
working. Yeah, so it's working
Mhm.
for you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and being a personal injury lawyer when it comes to marketing, dude, it's so interesting because it's not a need that everyone needs all the time,
right, yeah.
right? Um, it's something that you just have to keep your face out there so that when it does happen, oh, I know who to call, right? So
Hmm.
yeah,
So what are those? You mentioned some of the sticking points are restarting your business, getting cases in the door. So how are you attacking those challenges that you're facing in your business now?
I'm a lot more intentional, dude. I am so data driven. Keeping KPIs for everything, dude, looking at trend lines constantly. So, I'm constantly analyzing. Dude, I run my law firm like it's a business, not like it's a law firm. I, I act like I'm the CEO of a business, and and having that shift in my mindset has been really interesting. And dude, I'm seeing the revenue grow exponentially. I'm seeing, cases come in the door, just running it like it's a business, but not like it's a law firm. Does that
What
make
are
sense?
some of the hacks that Okay, this is what I want to ask you. So, insider scoop here, like, what's a hack or a tip or a trick that, if I'm ever hit by a bus or whatever, what are some things that I should be aware of that I can kind of hack the system?
Well, I don't know if it's about hacking the system as much as, dude, don't try to handle it yourself. So before I owned my law firm, so I started out my career as a prosecutor, right? And that's where I fell in love with the courtroom. But after I was a prosecutor, I got headhunted to go work at Farmers Insurance. And I was a trial lawyer for Farmers Insurance, dude. And I'll tell you this, man, I learned the business from the inside. And if you ever get hit, dude, like those insurance companies, like a good neighbor, will be there for you. I ain't gonna name the name there. They ain't gonna be there for you, man. That's not their job, dude. They're big corporations, right? They're trying to make money, and they make money two ways. One, to get people to sign up to pay their premiums, and number two, to screw people over on claims. I'm sorry, that's what they do. And so they will take advantage of you if you don't have an attorney. And not just even if you don't have an attorney, if you don't have the right attorney, if you don't have an attorney that's aggressive, that knows what the hell they're doing, dude, they will take advantage of you. Man, when I was working for the insurance company, we kept books on people, you know what I mean, on attorneys. And so, yeah, if you ever get in an accident, dude, and you get hurt, like, dude, just not just hire an attorney, but hire the right one, because, dude, they will take advantage of you.
Mm. So it probably helps to pay a premium for a really good attorney. It might seem crazy at the time you just got hit. Maybe you're in dire circumstances, but that's exactly the time that you should double down and hire somebody that's going to get your top dollar from the insurance companies.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, one thing that's nice.
Yeah, I'm ignorant. Do you get paid from the proceeds of the case?
Right? Yes, I'm just gonna say that. Yeah. So what's nice is you don't have to pay us a retainer, right? We front all the costs of the case, and it's not uncommon. I mean, we could spend $100,000, expenses on a case or whatever. And if we lose the case, you don't have to pay us back, which is nice. We front all the costs. We take all the risks. And then you don't have to pay us anything up front. You don't pay us by the hour. We take a percentage at the end at the end of the settlement or judgment if we go to trial. And so I'll tell you this, you're gonna, even though you're paying, let's say 33 and a third percent or 40% most of the time if you go to trial, you're still gonna probably net more because you've had the attorney.
With a good one, yeah.
We're gonna get you one.
Yeah.
Right. We know the experts to hire. We know the doctors to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the conversation I have with clients as a financial advisor. A lot of people are like, well, what's your fee? And I'm like, there's study after study that shows with someone coaching you, you will have better saving habits. You will get your goals faster. You'll have a better tax strategy. But if you really want, like, for me to sit here and talk about, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with Vanguard. It's a race for the bottom, right? So it's like, what are the other ways that I can add value helping you get to your goals faster? I totally get that. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you using AI, and where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
AI is interesting, especially because it's so new, right? And so I've started implementing AI. I was hesitant at first. Where I use it to help me draft different letters and stuff. I've tried to use it on like research and stuff, and it's just not there yet. Like legal research, it's getting cases wrong. I've used it before where I'm like, this case doesn't say what you're saying it says, that sort of thing, or it says, what's called an unpublished case. I can't use that case. But what I am using it for is, let's say it's a letter to opposing counsel and I'm trying to break down how the injuries have affected my client's life, right? I could put in, hey, type in the parameters of, these are the injuries my client has had. Here's, kind of bullet point, right? My client's an avid golfer and has lost his swing because of it. Doctor says he may not ever swing again. He used to play golf 3 times a week, whatever, right? Put in all these ways about how the injuries are affecting my client's life. And then I'll say, hey, write me a letter. And a lot of times I'm like, damn, it did in 30 seconds. It would have taken me a couple hours to do that. So that's where I'm using it a lot right now.
Okay. Where do you feel like it helps? Oh, go ahead.
It helps. It really does.
Where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
Ooh, where could I be using it? Looking at medical records, right? So we look at a lot of medical records. And I know some people are using it to summarize medical records. I just don't trust it yet. I don't trust it to get it accurate. I played around with it a little bit. I played around with it, like, for instance, just recently, few weeks ago, I was speaking at a national conference for attorneys, and I was speaking on, our vehicles have basically black boxes like
No big deal. Speaking at a conference.
yeah. But I was speaking at this conference, right? And I was speaking on how to use what we call EDRs, event data recorders. They're basically black boxes in our vehicles. And so I took the information off a case that I currently have.
Wait, do we all have those?
Oh yeah. So dude, if you get in a car accident, it'll tell us whether or not you're wearing your seatbelt. It'll tell you how fast you're going, what percentage of the accelerator was pressed.
Oh my
Dude, it'll tell you
goodness.
whether or not you tried to turn to avoid the accident, dude, what evasive maneuvers, dude. It tells us all that crap.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So yeah,
All
so
right.
I'm thinking on this, but I took the event data recorder report, put it into Chat GPT, and it got it all wrong. To be honest, it got it all wrong. And I went back and I realized why it screwed it up. But I think in the future, it's going to really help my industry a ton. It's going to really help the industry a ton. But it's to me, honestly, it's not quite there yet. But we can use it in some aspects. Like I said, writing letters, writing emails, stuff like that. That's where I use it the most, is correspondence with people.
How have you been impacting? So switching gears a little bit. So obviously we both, Rise of Kings is dear to us. We got our bracelets on. Well, how has that impacted how you show up as a, business owner, father, husband, all of the above?
Dude, just give a little plug to Rise Up Kings. What I tell people, that program is the most life transformative thing that a man can go through outside of the day you give your life to the Lord, the day you get married, and the day you have your first child. I think outside of that, dude, is the most life transformative thing a guy can do. And so the concepts that they teach us, dude, is just, I bring it into my life. I think where I see it the most, I think, is a lot more intentionality. I like having the, people there holding me accountable. I know if I start slacking, I'm gonna get a text from you, or one of the other boys. So that's where I use it a lot. I think that it's affected me where I use a lot more intentionality. I've always kind of been a planner. I've been a great planner, but not a good executionist. I haven't been great at executing, and I think I'm executing a lot better. Whether it's in my marriage, my faith, right? We have the 4 pillars, right? We have our faith, our family, our finances, and our fitness. And I'm just hold myself accountable and executing a lot better, I think, all around the board. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just so we have it on the record, when are you coming out here to ski with me?
Dude, I know. I was so excited to come. It didn't work out, man.
I should have gotten Randy on the record the other day as well. Goodness. Okay, dude, is there anything we haven't talked about today that you'd like to talk about? So, it could be a hot take that no one shares. It could be a cause you're rallying behind. It could be something you're learning or God's teaching you. The floor is yours.
Dude, the Lord has been refining me a lot these last couple of years. I have really been, I'll tell you this, whenever you step out and do something in the Lord's name, like we're doing in the school, dude, the enemy's going to be on attack. And the enemy has been on attack in various ways in my personal life, in my marriage, in my businesses. When we sat down and decided to start that school, I'm not going to say that I sat complacent in California and watched California go to hell, but I didn't do enough, right? And my wife and I both decided we're going to step out and be more outspoken for our Christian values. And when we start that school, whenever you do that, man, the Lord's going to be on attack. And I'll tell you this, I was not spiritually ready for it. And I wish I would have been. And it's been a big, big journey for me. I'm still growing, growing constantly. And I've really had to really rely on surrendering to the Lord, giving things over to the Lord, and trusting Him and giving up my control. Right. You want to make the Lord laugh, tell Him what you're going to do. You know what I mean? And I've really learned what it means to surrender to the Lord, give it to Him. Now, that doesn't mean you don't do anything, right? The Lord still wants you to be proactive, and He rewards that. But really just surrendering to Him, man, and just And that's one thing I think, that I took away from Rise Up Kings, man. Like I mentioned a moment ago, right? We got those 4 pillars, and my faith pillar has really grown over the last couple of years. And I've always been a Christian. I grew up in a Christian household. I went to a Christian school, went to church on Sundays, and I've always been a Christian. And yeah, in my 20s and early 30s, I was doing stuff, but I didn't have that deep personal relationship with Christ, with our Lord and Savior, that I have now. And that is one thing that I was working on prior to Rise Up Kings, but that is one thing that I took out of Rise Up Kings that um, has really shaped me. And I'm really um, looking forward to what the Lord has for me as I continue to get shaped.
We're studying the book of Acts at our church, and that's one of the principles that we've been studying is anytime God's kingdom attempts to expand, the devil always resists. And so, um, what you're doing is a good and honorable thing, trying to expand God's kingdom through education. And yeah, I mean, I feel that to some extent, Eric. I don't know how much we talked about my vision for Fat Boy Fitness, but I've pivoted a lot in my mind. I'm like, I literally want to bring Rise Up Kings back to my local church, and I'm feeling a lot of resistance doing that. I'm trying to host fundraisers. I'm trying to get a physical space, and in many ways, it feels like this inertia and this lethargy. And like, why do you want to do that? And I'm like, because there's more in the tank. I know we can do it. I've seen it. There's more in the tank, and we are sinking to a level of complacency, and I don't want to do it anymore. And instead of having to go to Rise Up Kings every quarter or whatever for an event, I want it to be every freaking day when I wake up with my guys. We're doing CrossFit and we're praying and we're doing ice bath 3 times a week, where we're confessing, like, make sure my bros are living in the light. Like, let's get that every freaking day.
Dude,
So,
what you walk into we talk about this kind of at Rise Up Kings, but you walk into an average Christian church these days, dude, and I hate to say it this way, but dude, you look around the men at an average Christian church, dude, it's not inspiring. It's not inspiring. Our Christian church these days, dude, it's been watered down. It's not full of warriors. It's not full of kings. And so, yeah, dude, I love that mission. I really do. I really do, because, the men in the Christian church need to stand up. You want to look at what's going on around the society today, dude, and it's because it's our own damn fault. The men need to stand up.
Yeah, it could, but it could be like we could, like, I think I love the vision. Change the man, change the world. Like, that's okay. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So,
yep. And
anything else?
Accountability, because, dude, life today, go back one generation, right? Life is a lot different for us men than it was for our fathers and grandfathers. Our generation is in this really interesting, situation. So,
is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Oh man, I mean, we could talk for hours.
We should do it. No, we should do another one. Honestly, the education thing, I would be real interested to like have Ashley on and let's talk all about it. That would be fascinating for me. Fascinating.
Yeah, we could, dude, because we could go on and on about what we're seeing. It's interesting, right? Because we take it into our own parenting, right? What we see in these kids, and we're like, okay, you're right. Whether or not they have, whether it's the use of cell phones, right? Just as a simple example, right? We see the trends. Hey, kids that have cell phones, we see a common denominator in their behavior, right? Something as simple as that, as an example. But like I said, the education system's broken. We're trying to redefine it, and we're trying to give. Really, it's trying to, it came from selfish reasons of trying to give our kids the education system that we wish we had, and that we think that they.
Yeah. Dude, amen. Let's do another one. Let's do it. Let's get Ashley on here. Eric, if people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Oh man, I'd like to say reach out to me on social media, but I'm horrible at it. But honestly, so I mean, you could reach me, dude. Like, you can email me. It's Eric Stephen Meyer at Gmail. My work email is emeyer@meyerinjurylawyers.com. My website's meyerinjurylawyers.com. Dude, just reach out. Anyone can feel free to reach
out. So if there's any vendors listening to this, Eric loves spam. So go ahead and hit him up.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. No, in all seriousness, he's become a really good friend. He's doing amazing things for the Lord. He and his wife are a power couple. And, the concept of big hitter, I think you can't be really a big hitter unless you're a big hitter in your family and your marriage. And so, yeah, you embody all those things. So thanks so much for joining us.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.